Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
Located at 109 Wall Boulevard in Gretna, Uniforms by Logo Express provides school uniforms, medical wear, hospitality wear, safety and industrial wear, and so much more. We offer a number of locations on both sides of the river. 2 in Chantilly, 1 in Woodmere, and our main store located in Gretna. Uniforms by Logo Express. Your brand starts here.
The owners of the Delachey's Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachet, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachet, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to the second show of the second season of Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander, and we've got a dandy for you today. Hey, college football kicked off this weekend, and boy, did it ever live up to the hype. It never really happens this way. You had so many big games across the country. Well, here locally, the biggest was LSU, Wisconsin, and it was a heartbreaking loss at historic Lambeau Field. It was the first college football game ever played on hallowed grounds up there in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the Packers' home stadium. You know what? You expected a lot. You weren't sure what you were going to get, but you got a lot of the same old from head coach Les Miles. You know, a lot of people were expecting, hey, maybe they would just open up this offense like they did in 2013 when they had Beckham and Landry and Mettenberger and Hill. You didn't see it. It was a lot of the same old thing, run into a big brick wall. So the big elephant in the room is Les Miles. What can he do to get the fans off of his back? Throw the football, Les. That's what they want to see. Hey, Brandon Harris, the jury is still out on him. The poor guy had a tough interception at the end of the game. Hopefully he'll recover. Hey, this was also Tulane's first game in the Willie Fritz era. That's right, the Angry Wave. Right there, you see that, made its first appearance since the early 80s, and that was the best era of Tulane football in the 70s, early 80s, and they're hoping to bring it back. The Saints, they kick off Sunday this week, and they're going to play the Oakland Raiders and Drew Brees, and we'll figure out that contract situation. I've got a lot of great guests to talk about, but the story that you always hear, the stuff that is not going great in the NBA, NFL, and major leagues. You don't hear the great stories like what's happening in New Orleans with Drew Holiday and his wife Lauren. She's got operable brain tumor going on right now, a very serious situation, but she's also pregnant, so she cannot have the surgery till after she delivers the baby. Drew says family first. We're going to take care of this. The Pelicans are supportive, and he is going to be by his wife's side as she gets through, obviously, the taking care of the tumor and then the birth of their child. Kudos to the Pels. Kudos to Drew Holiday and his wife Lauren, a gold medalist in her own right. Congrats to those. We have a great show. I've got Lyons Yellin from WWL next. Then I have the Tulane Athletic Director, Troy Dannen, going to join us to talk about all the wave. And then don't forget, Barry Hirstius will join me as well later to talk about the Saints game. It's Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander. Stay tuned. It's going to be a fun one.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back, Crescent City. I cannot wait for this show. Later in the show, we're going to have Troy Dannen, the athletic director at Tulane, one of the first athletic directors literally in modern history that had to hire 3 coaches at major sports right off the bat. I can't wait to talk to him all about that later in the show. I have Big Easy believers, Barry Hirstius, part of Sports Illustrated and Time Magazine. They're doing some great things over there. But right now, hey, Johnny Carson, well, he had his Joan Rivers. David Letterman, he had Chris Elliott. He had Terry Garr. And more recently, Jimmy Fallon's got, you know, Justin Timberlake. They're always on the show together. But I've got my man, Lyons Yellin, right here from WLAE-TV. We've been good friends for a couple of years. I've been looking forward to having you back on in the 2nd season. And I said, why not? The Saints is about to kick off. You were at training camp the whole time. I was there for 2 weeks with you. Let's get it done.
I love the new digs, man. This is great. And compared to Babs, like, wow. I don't know what to say, but thank you.
There you go, brother. All right, let's do this. So let's start off the back. We'll get to the Saints in a second, but I've got to talk about the news of the day. 72 hours ago, LSU ended a game that many thought they should win. They did not get it done. Heartbreaking, but talk about this. Lambeau Field, the build-up, it was Wisconsin-LSU, the hallowed grounds of Lambeau Field, and for a while there, it looked like it was going to be a game from the 1940s. It was 0-0 until late in the first half.
Absolutely. I mean, the environment was spectacular. Just seeing it on TV, game day was there. Seeing all the LSU fans go up there was wonderful, and all the hype was really surrounding LSU and Leonard Fournette, and really the talk was, would Brandon Harris be able to step up? Would he have that moment when he could finally take control of this team? And with Les Miles, the offense, would he change the offense enough to put Brandon Harris in a position to succeed? And I think we got our answer the other day, and it was a resounding no. This offense looked exactly the same. They didn't utilize all the weapons they have surrounding him, and unfortunately LSU snapped their 52-game regular season non-conference winning streak, and in the process became one of 7 SEC teams to lose. The SEC was 7-7 on opening weekend.
It was a tough weekend for the SEC.
Yeah,
very tough. Let's get to LSU real quick because that's what the fans want to talk about. But this game, like you said, we have to start there because when LSU had Les Miles on the ropes last year, his job was in jeopardy.
Right.
Everybody thought going to the A&M game he'd be fired afterward. Well, they put a great performance, and maybe Jimbo Fisher couldn't come or whatever happened. He stayed.
They rallied around him.
But the point was, it's like, okay, they're giving him another shot here, and deservedly so. He's the winningest coach in LSU history. And you thought you might see something different. It's not like they don't have weapons. They have 2 guys that are potential high draft picks in Malachi Dupree and Trayvon Doral, yet they still stuck to the same old game plan. Your thoughts?
It was same old, same old. I mean, same story, different year, and it's so disappointing because you look at guys like Malachi Dupree and Trayvon Doral. Those guys are great weapons for a quarterback like Brandon Harris, but they don't put Harris in a position to succeed. You look at Nick Saban and the way he's been able to plug in starting quarterbacks, freshman Jalen Hurt this year, in the past, and they put them in a position to succeed. They've been called game managers, and that's what you need out of Brandon Harris, but they don't allow him to throw on first down. Their offense is so predictable based on the personnel you have on the field that it really makes it easy for defenses to just put their ears back and go. And you also have to look at this offensive line. Yes, 3 new starters there. But at the same time, you would have thought this would have been a strength for LSU. But Brandon Harris was running for his life all day. The holes weren't there for Leonard Fournette early on in the game. He ended up getting his yardage, but
yeah, he was bottled up. I mean, listen, Wisconsin came out fired up, and having recruited Wisconsin for years when I was an agent, I've been up there a lot. Never to Lambeau with them, but I've seen many games at Camp Randall. This team gets pumped at home, and this was a home crowd. Make no mistake, there was 70% at least for Wisconsin, and this was the game they've been looking forward to. No one was talking about them. They're usually ranked this time of year. They weren't because they've lost a few players, but still, they came out fired up, and they looked like the team that wanted to win the most.
They did, and I thought LSU was too focused on big picture, playoff, national championship, this is our year, instead of being focused on Wisconsin, where they needed to be. Wisconsin, this was their one game. They circled this game. They had to win it. They were going against Dave Aranda, their old defensive coordinator.
Right. A lot of motivation.
A lot of motivation there. And SEC powerhouse team, Leonard Fournette, and the Tigers, they're just thinking about this is going to be on our way to a playoff season. This is a magical year for us. Yes, they had a lot going on in Baton Rouge. It's been a crazy summer. But I just thought that fight, that fire, it just wasn't there.
I got to be honest with you. LSU moribund for most of the game. All of a sudden, Tre'Davious White has the big pick in the pick 7. All of a sudden, it's a 13-7 game. They get a fumble, and then you have a touchdown by Traven Durrell, and all of a sudden it's 14-13. Things are like they used to be, kind of like the game against Wisconsin at Energy when they were down even further later in the game. And you thought, okay, all things are normal again, and it's going to be LSU, but the bottom drops out yet again.
It was setting up perfectly for that magical ending. Delahoo's kicking a field goal to win the game after what happened with the Wisconsin punter and the tragedy there. But then you just see another mistake by Brandon Harris trying to do too much, and that was it right there. And you could see how dejected they were at that point.
Well, as happy or sad we were for Delahousse not to be able to get it done. The other kicker, Rafael Gaglianone, he's the one that actually changed his number to 27 and honored Nebraska's punter Foltz, who was honored for their game. And by the way, the guy who died, if you weren't paying attention, in the wreck that Delahousse was burned in. But the bottom line is he got it done. He got the storyline behind him. But let's go to the big elephant in the room before we get on to the Saints. It's obviously Brandon Harris and Les Miles. So right now, you know, they have a game against Jacksonville State this Saturday. Then you hit the SEC schedule. You have Mississippi State and then at Auburn. How big are these games for these two guys, and what do you expect from them?
Well, they're huge, and look, it's still a long season. LSU is still an immensely talented team, and they can still win the SEC. Let's not forget that. They can run the table. Does it get much harder now that they've lost to Wisconsin? Is that a stain on their resume? Sure. But it's a long season, so it's not time to go crazy here and throw Brandon Harris overboard. I think he's still their best quarterback.
And here's the thing. Let me say this. Fans are so fickle in all sports, but college football, none other than that. Because listen, everybody's like, LSU's done. How many times have we seen this? Even Alabama, every year they had that loss. It was Ole Miss last season. And I know a lot of Bama fans. And they're like, God, not again. I kept reminding them. Do you have to be reminded? You always come back and win. Now, LSU hasn't proven it as much as Alabama, but it's still out there for them. They wipe the table, and they're going to the national championship game.
What do they always say? Lose early. If you're going to lose early. And I think this could be a year where you have a 2-loss team maybe in the playoff. You might see everyone lose a game here this year. We've already seen it. SEC goes 7-7 in open weekend. There's a lot of parity out there.
Real quick, Josh Boutte, not Josh Booty, the former All-SEC quarterback, but Josh Boutte, who's now made himself a household name, the offensive lineman on the interception. Dakota Dixon got the pick right there. He's celebrating, and little does he know in this picture that he's about to get leveled, and here it is. Boutte levels him. You can make all the excuses you want, but he will be suspended for a game.
Right, and that was the right call. Should he have been suspended for longer than that? You know, we could debate that all day. It was a deplorable move on his part. Really not the way.
Let the emotions get the best of him.
He let his emotion get the best of him, and he's punished for it. I think it's time to move on from that. He'll pay his penalty. He'll come back. Hopefully, he learned a lesson from it.
It's the right move. And I think a game is right as well. Hey, let's get to the Saints. It's the 50th season. I mean, like I said, I was at training camp with you for the first 2 weeks. You stayed till the bitter end, all the way through. Lots going on here. We've got a lot of storylines to touch, but I have to say this. You and I we were both a lot higher than we were in the previous couple of training camps that I've been around you with, and I'm going to say this. We felt pretty good, and then all of a sudden the preseason happened.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on this 50th season?
You know, I've kind of learned to take a wait-and-see approach. I'm down on them at this point, and I'll just say this. I think it could be maybe a 5-win team the way they played in the preseason, because the offensive line has just been so bad. If they're not going to protect Drew Brees, it could be a very long season. I am optimistic about the defense, but it just seems like everything has to go right for this team to just win 7 games. And we all know that the NFL, nothing ever goes right.
All right, I've got to talk to you. Lyons is obviously the WWL sports anchor, reporter, all that, writer as well. But he also sometimes hosts 4th Down and 4. He did a great job. That's the show WWL has at 10:30 on Sunday nights. It covers the entire week of sports. Fabulous show. He got to host this week, but the previous week he was a guest on the show with Christian Garrick from WWL Radio, and of course Doug Mouton was hosting. And you made a pretty controversial statement. I don't think people out there were ready for it, but I think in the back of a lot of people's minds, they've thought about it. And that statement being,
I wanted to start a discussion about whether or not the Saints should trade Drew Brees, whether they should try to get something for him now. And I think it's an interesting debate. And I've spoken with so many people over the last couple of weeks since I said that. And
it's almost like blasphemy in some circles, correct?
Let me say this.
Right.
I think Drew Brees has been and still is one of the best quarterbacks in this game, and he will go down among the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. There's no question there. But
where does he rank this year? I mean, not to get off topic too much, but how good do you think Drew Brees can be this year? Is he still at the? We know he's not 1, 2, or 3, but is he at the top 5 level, or is he down to the bottom of the top 10?
I think he's definitely a top 5 quarterback in this league. And look, it's so dependent on whether his offensive line can block for him, if he can stay healthy. I mean, he looks great in camp. He's starting to show signs that maybe he's not quite as accurate anymore, but being a little bit off for Drew Brees is better than everybody else in the league. So I still think he has some good football left in him, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, that's tough to say. But it just seems like people have to wrap their heads around, and the organization has to wrap their heads around, Drew Brees isn't going to be there forever. His career is finite, and it's coming to an end. Now, can you see it? Do you have the vision to get in front of it and help your team in the long run, or are you just looking at the short term and kicking the can down the road like the Saints do so often?
He's in great shape for a 37-year-old. When you see 37, you're like, this $100 million deal he just got off is over 5 years, so you're thinking that's $20 million a year. They're asking $100 over 4 years for an aging quarterback.
Right.
Now, to me, if they go ahead and do this deal, it's all about the guaranteed money.
Right.
Because $25 million for a quarterback that's 41, you'd like to see him prove it at 39 and 40 a little bit. We all know Drew Brees, after watching him in training camp and in practice, he's still pretty darn good. But can he be that good if they do sign him? And how much guaranteed money, if you're Mickey Loomis, would you give him?
I mean, it seems...
That's if he doesn't get traded.
Right. I don't think he's getting traded. It's an interesting...
It's a theory.
It's an interesting topic to talk about. And look, you see Sam Bradford, Philadelphia got a first-round and a fourth-round pick that could be a third-round pick.
It bolstered your argument for sure.
I mean, good. So what is Drew Brees worth?
Right.
3 first-round picks?
Right.
I mean, clearly they're not going to get that, but it's an interesting way to kind of size up the market. But let's put it this way. $100 million, to pay Drew Brees $100 million over the next 4 years, you're paying him until he's 42 years old. That is a huge risk for this team. Now, is he worth $25 million a season right now? Absolutely. I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. But really,
especially at today's rate, you're seeing some inferior quarterbacks getting similar money.
I mean, Colin Kaepernick is a backup, and he's making $19 million a season.
Right.
So, but what I think really this all boils down to, and I think Drew Brees has to decide and the Saints have to decide, is what's more important. Drew Brees being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, one of the top paid quarterbacks in the league, or the long-term health of this team. And that's what it boils down to. Is he going to say, I want to win a championship, or I want to be the highest paid and paid like I should be? That's the decision to be made here.
All right, let's get to the rest of the team. Big news yesterday, Sheldon Rankins is now on the IR. We thought he might come back for game 4 or 5. Well, now he can't come back till after 8 games. I mean, week 8, because now you have you come back after 6 to practice for 2. How does this affect this defense and getting fairly? Does this help? Obviously, it does help, but what's it going to mean for Rankins to be out and the guys replacing him? What can they do that he can do?
Well, Rankins has showed such an ability to affect the quarterback, to push the pocket. He was great against the run, and it just really takes away depth from that the tackle position. Now that Fairley is going to have to play more snaps, he has to get in better shape. The fact is, that guy could be one of the most dominant tackles in the NFL if he could just put it all together, get in shape, not come in overweight. He is an absolute force to be reckoned with.
He looked great against the Texans.
I mean, he just can't sustain it. Is the problem.
And he looked like he was in shape at minicamp. I mean, it's funny because it can get Popeye.
He even said it. He admitted it. He admitted it. I need to get in better shape.
Right.
But you look at Tyler Davison. Jenkins is playing much better. Had 2 sacks the other night. I think when you put Rankins back in there, it makes the whole defense around them.
All right, we're talking about big elephants in the room. Obviously, Andres Pete, he has been a big topic. First-round pick, 13th pick of the entire draft the year before, and he has not looked very good in his second year. I thought He looked in great shape coming into the mini camp and also at camp, but then when it got to real live competition in preseason, he's been exposed.
He has, and when you draft a guy in the first round, you expect him to come in, if not play in year one, definitely in year two. And the Saints' vision for him all along was to play right tackle, was to take Zach Street's job. They wanted to have Teron Armstead on the left and Andrus Peat on the right.
Probably
and they wanted,
by now, right?
Yes, by now.
Right.
And the fact is Zach Street has continued to beat him out. He challenged him last year. He said, young man, come take my job. And Peat hasn't been able to do that. And that has forced the Saints to re-examine their vision. And now they put him back at left guard. He's more natural on the left side, and we'll see how he holds up there.
All right, Unger just got the big contract. That's huge. That's the
Right.
force in the middle. That's the big guy that they got for Jimmy Graham, basically, along with the first-round pick, which ended up being Anthony. He was just named MVP from 2015. We were at the Touchdown Club last week. I'm going to graze over this because I want to get to free agents.
Sure.
Delvin Breaux, I thought another great selection as the MVP for the defense. What a story that is. We all know it. From long shot to making the team to maybe this guy's going to start and start all 16 games and might be a force, and then Michael Maudie. All right, now what I got to get to with you, because I want to get to this. Michael Maudie was the special teams MVP, by the way, and that was the great block punt against the Falcons when the Falcons were 5-0 on that Thursday night and the Saints were 1-4. Now that I've spoken, it's your turn. Free agents. Let's start with Kobe Fleener and how he can fit in this offense. We've seen a couple flashes of it,
yes,
but we certainly haven't seen yet what we thought we might. How big is he going to be for Drew Brees?
Oh, I think he's going to be a great weapon for Brees, and he also helps the rest of the receivers. He helps Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, Willie Snead. They all will work very well together. The problem at that tight end position is that you don't have anybody that can block, and that really has exposed the offensive line. Fleener is not a blocking tight end. I think he may catch 60, 70 balls this year and 5 to 7 touchdowns, but it's difficult to see where the Saints turn to for that big blocking tight end.
Well, Brees is average, believe it or not, 5,100 yards over the last 5 years.
Right.
Average.
Yeah.
And there's only been 4 other quarterbacks that have even approached 5,000. So he's going to spread it out. You got Snead, you got Cooks. Fantasy football drafts are happening now. Snead, Cooks, Thomas, and Fleener. How do they disperse it?
Unbelievable. I think all of these guys, you may see.
Are they all draftable?
You may see 3,000-yard receivers on this team.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Snead is the clear #1. He's Brees' favorite target by far. And then Brandon Cooks, you can see his development. I think he's really learned how to use his body, fight off defenders, and I love Michael Thomas.
So you're saying my 7th-round pick of Snead's pretty good?
Oh, I drafted him in the 10th round.
All right, well, you did better. But I have a 14-team league. But anyway, let's go to, real quick, defensive free agents.
Okay.
Laurinaitis, how big is that going to be?
Huge.
And then the other guys that weren't really talked about as much, Robertson and Stupar.
Oh, I mean, the way they've revamped their linebacking core, I think, could be the big story of this year when you look at this defense. If this defense improves even marginally, I mean, if they're 15th in the league, let's say they jump halfway up, that would be huge for this team. And I think you would have to credit the linebackers there, because all 3 of them, Laurinaitis leading the way, has gotten this defense in order. And then you look at Craig Robertson, I think he's just been an absolute blessing for this team. Can't wait to see what he does in the regular season.
Well, you know the tradition, as we let you sign the ball here.
Right.
It's an LSU Tiger ball, because my Saints ball is getting a little full, and I got to get a new one for next week.
Because you got such great guests on this show every week.
We've had some fun ones. But real quick, going to break, Bird. Are we going to see the Bird that they're supposed to get when he signed that huge contract?
He's looked better, and look, this is a big tryout for him this year, because next year they can cut him and save about $3.6 million. So
Von Bell will jump in.
Right.
And then Ingram and Spiller. I mean, another free agent from last year. Spiller didn't have anything going on. How can these two make this offense better?
Oh, I mean, look, Spiller looks like he has that burst that he's been missing since he got here. He's got the lateral quickness now. He looks healthy for the first time. The question is, can both the guys stay healthy?
All right, the Saints and Raiders, if it was on the road, we'd be big underdogs. They're at home. It's a toss-up. What are you thinking?
I think the Raiders.
Raiders are a good team.
The Raiders are. I'm impressed with him, and I drafted Derek Carr as my quarterback.
If you can't block the little Mac, it's going to be a long day.
Right.
I'm going to go Saints on this one. Home, I think it gets through this first game, but it's not going to be easy. Lyons, Yellin, always great. I love that he doesn't mind coming so often. We have a good time every time we're around. We did on the radio, and now we're doing TV. But coming up next, My first time ever having him. His name is Troy Dannen. He is the relatively new athletic director for the Tulane Green Wave. That's right. He came on right after Thanksgiving last year, and all of a sudden he hired a bunch of new coaches in about a 6-month stretch. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
The mark of Legacy Kitchen is simple. We offer numerous dishes like chicken enchilada soup, prime filet and loaded baked potato, baby back ribs, and so much more. At Legacy Kitchen, we serve American fare, crafted cocktails, and we offer a great selection of wines by the glass. Metairie at Vets and Martin Berman, and in the Warehouse District at Chapatulas and Girard.
I burned for health.
For never being big again.
I burned for my family.
For my 10th high school reunion.
For swimsuit season. I burned for myself.
Orange Theory Fitness. Keep burning.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934. It is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans. Welcome back, Crescent City. Hey, I really enjoyed having Lyons, Yellin talking LSU and, of course, the New Orleans Saints. And coming up next, we're going to have Barry Hirstius from Sports Illustrated and Time Magazine's fan-sided group. They're part of Big Easy Believer. Talk about the Saints' opening game against the Raiders. But I'm very honored right now to have my next guest. Hey, listen, I've had a lot of head coaches already on Primetime Sports, the pro level, the college level, current, former. And I've had a lot of athletic directors on when I had the radio show, but I believe this is the first actual college athletic director I've had on this show. His name is Troy Dannen, and if you're a Tulane fan, you're well aware because he's had it busy first 9 months since he's been on this job. And here he is right here. Scott, welcome to the show, Troy.
I appreciate it. And normally it's not a good idea for an AD to be on anybody's show.
Right. But you want to be behind the scenes.
Exactly right. But it has been a whirlwind 9 months, that's for sure.
Well, I have talked about this with friends frequently because, you know, a lot of times an AD comes on because there is a need to hire a coach. There's something that's been going wrong. But you came on immediately, and for people that don't know, he was hired, and then the first order of business was to hire a new football coach. So let's get into that. And then he ended up hiring a new basketball coach and then a new baseball coach. The baseball coach was not by choice. We'll talk about why that was. And then he hired a volleyball coach in between there as well. So he has been truly busy. Let's talk about coming on the job and you getting a job. First of all, you had options. You were at a great university in Northern Iowa, a great tradition, particularly in basketball, but they do well in most sports. Why did you want to take this jump to come south to a place you've never been near?
Well, you know, in Northern Iowa is my alma mater too.
Right.
But you know, I wanted to move up, and in our world, moving up is football. You know, we were a good FCS program. I wanted to do this at the FBS level, and it's not easy. There aren't many jobs. There are 128 of those jobs, and I wanted to be someplace, one, where I thought you could do it, when you could have success. I just didn't want to go to do it. And I wanted to be south. I've been in Iowa. I'm 50. I've been in Iowa my whole life. I was ready for warm. Now
it's tough from December to March in Iowa, isn't it? It gets a little chilly.
You know, it was 60 degrees, and I was in the pool here when I got to town. So people didn't understand that down here, but that's 70 degrees warmer than it is in Iowa.
Yeah, it's much nicer down here year round. Although it gets a little hot in the summer. I mean, I was gone for a while. Even Atlanta, I used to think, oh, it's hot there. I come down here just 7 hours to the southwest, and it's much hotter. So first of all, how was your first summer? I mean, this is brutal, isn't it?
You know, it is and it's not. Everybody asks me how do I like New Orleans, and the fact of the matter is I really haven't gotten to enjoy it yet because it has been crazy just trying to get a plan in place and get, I think we have 49 new people out of 111 on the staff, so there's been a lot of new integration of people. So the idea, my outside has been walking to my car to go home and see my kids at night, and that's been about it.
You've been around Northern Iowa a while. Obviously, you had a job in between, but you went to school there. You've been there. You were there from, I guess, 2008 to 2015, 7+ years. How about the big event? I mean, listen, I know there's been a lot of highlights in your career, but when Northern Iowa's basketball team in 2010, you see it right here, when they went to the Sweet 16, knocking off #1 seed Kansas, that had to be unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was, and you know, everybody forgets, we beat UNL, we were a 9 seed. We beat Vegas in the first round.
Sure.
Same kid, Ali Farukmanish, hit a 3 to seal the game, and everybody forgets about that, and that was I think the first time we'd won a game and advanced, and then boom, there's Kansas, nothing to lose, and I don't know if I've told this story, but a little side story to that game, we needed a new floor, portable floor, and in the tournament you're eligible to buy the floors you play on.
Oh, wow, all right.
And I had promised the guys at the beginning of the season that if we made the tournament, we would, because we'd made the tournament the previous year and lost out in Portland, and said we'll buy that floor. That will be our new floor if we win. And sure enough, not only did we beat Vegas, we beat Kansas, and then we went to the Sweet 16. So we actually bought the floor that we played
you won
the Sweet
2
16.
games on, right?
We bought the Sweet 16 floor.
Oh, you bought that one?
Oh yeah, the guys forced it. Yeah, when we went up a level, they raised the stakes on me a little bit. So we actually still play at Northern Iowa on the floor that we played our Sweet 16.
I actually produced the 04 before you were there, when Ben Jacobson, the player, was playing for Ben Jacobson, the coach. Great game against Georgia Tech. You were a 14 seed in that game, and I remember it well because I did the tournament with Brando for years. So the tradition for sports is strong at Northern Iowa.
It really is, and it's one of the top FCS football programs in the country.
Yep.
In fact, just beat Iowa State last weekend for the 3rd time
How
in
about
7
that?
years.
3rd time in 7 years?
Yeah, in volleyball during my time there, we were top 6 national seed twice, and so we had it going in a lot of sports, but that was kind of the allure of coming here, is because it wasn't necessarily going. And you know, I'm not really a maintain guy. We got it going. We kept it going. It was time for me to go find someplace else to get it going.
Well, congrats. I know everybody's excited to have you. Your first thing I alluded to earlier was you came in right off the bat. You had to get a coach, and that coach ended up being Willie Fritz. I know you replaced Curtis Johnson, who was a popular guy here. Never had head coaching experience, but he's back being a wide receiver coach in the NFL. But you had a lot of options. What made you choose Willie Fritz from Georgia Southern?
Well, you know, the timeline, I had my first interview. I was called back for the second interview. The second interview was the day after the last football game of the season. I was told that they were going to make a football move at that time, and so I needed to start thinking about if we were going to make a change, what would I do?
Right.
And before my interview, where I actually got the job and had the job offered, I'd reached out to a few agents I knew, and the first one I said to is, I'm looking for a guy like Willie Fritz, a guy who has a system, a guy who's a really high character guy. And I knew Willie because I was on the football championship committee at the 1AA level.
Okay.
Willie was in the championship game, so I knew of him. I followed him. I'd also followed the transition from FCS to FBS because not many coaches had made it successfully, and Willie had made it successfully. Well, ironically, that agent had just signed Willie 3 months earlier. It was the same agent that my football coach used in Northern Iowa. So
Interesting.
You talk about how
like
the stars line up.
The
stars line up, and so when I was offered the job, we hired Willie 6 days later, but kind of had a head start. I knew some of the people I wanted to talk to, and was able to get to Willie right away. But he was my target from day one. He has a system, but he's won with whatever talent he had when he walked into a place. And he's built programs at every level, which is what we needed here.
For people that don't know, because they know the option which he ran at Georgia Southern, and I watched that bowl, even though he'd already hired him, and I watched it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got excited. But people that don't know, at Sam Houston, passing offense, the great coaches will adapt to what you have. Don Shula did it, all running with obviously the Colts when he coached there, and then the Dolphins undefeated season. And then he got a guy named Dan Marino, and he said, I better chuck the ball around. Right. So Willie Fritz is a guy that's adaptable to what he has. So what does he have right here at Tulane?
Well, you know, he's got a bunch of guys who are recruited to play pro-style offense, and
which is passing generally,
which is passing. But you know, he walks in, and the asset here is defense. There's a couple of guys, you know, Nickerson and Smart are going to play in the NFL. They're going to get drafted. Great defensive players and a good nucleus around them. So one, he's got that. He's got a defense built. But two, you know, we've got a great stable of running backs. We had a bunch of inexperienced quarterbacks. So, you know, for him, you know, I think we saw a little bit in the first game against Wake of what he wants to try to do. But this isn't the Georgia Southern. You know, Georgia Southern historically, back in the days.
Irk Russell.
Russell and Tracy Ham was the quarterback. They ran a form of the wishbone called the ham bone with Tracy Ham.
Right.
It was wonderful, but that's such an institutional culture to run that true option. So it wouldn't have mattered who would have gone in there. They were going to run that option. Willie's I describe it as more of a Reed pistol type guy. You know, Colin Kaepernick became famous in Nevada and early on with the 49ers because of that pistol read. And that's what Willie's known for.
Well, they threw 23 balls, so it's not like you're running 90 times and passing 5. So they do have a good mix. The first game was Wake Forest. You mentioned it. It was listen, the defense. 59 yards, I believe they gave up in the second half, under 200 for the game, only 3 first downs. The defense played amazing. The offense, obviously, when you have a quarterback that hasn't taken a snap, I believe, I know he hadn't thrown a pass in college football. How do you feel the transition will be for Glenn Couillette and the young players?
Well, you know, they say your biggest improvements between week 1 and week 2. I think that's magnified 10 times because of the inexperience we had under center. I thought Glenn played great. Especially considering he's never been in that position before. And, you know, you can point to 100 good things that came out of the game. You know, the fact of the matter is that was a game we gave away against a team we should have beaten, we expect to beat. And, you know, that's the lesson I think we'll take out of it. And hopefully the guys will understand. You know, I don't want to walk on the field ever and not expect to win.
I love this. There's no moral victories here.
There are no moral victories.
Right.
You know, you do have to take what's good.
Right.
And you build on that. But, you know, I think the guys will look back, and I don't know in the past whether they expected to win that game or not. And, you know, now the lesson is, look, you should have won that game. We need to expect to win that game. And it was a great teaching moment. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, you know, as I talked to Coach on the way out, if we won the game, we were not going to go 12-0. And if we lost the game, we're not going 0-12.
Hey,
so
you've inherited some good players. You mentioned, too, that I will be playing on Sundays. There's no doubt Tanzel Smart and Perry Nickerson. But I have to tell you, I watch college football a lot, and I can count on one hand that you have a guy named Nico Marley that is in my top 5 favorite players to watch. I just love watching him. Tell me about Bob Marley's grandson and what he means for this program.
Tell you, the thing that impressed me most about him, he's the emotional leader. You know, he was the guy jumping up and down. He's the guy getting everybody's face. He was the guy, and we have to have emotion. You know, you want to play with emotion. You don't want to play emotionally, and that's what he does so well. He plays with great emotion, but he doesn't react emotionally. And emotionally is when you over-pursue. Emotionally is when you get the late hit. He doesn't do things like that, but he's a great, great leader. I admire him because of that characteristics.
All right, we're going to have some fun with you. I grew up next to Tulane State. We've had Willie Fritz on the show. We're going to get to Mike Dunleavy. We had him on the show also. But before I do, you made a big splash with the helmet. And Tulane had a successful period in the 70s where they were doing I never really called it the Angry Wave because I didn't know what but the Angry Wave, here's the logo. Yeah. Well, they got the microphone on that one. That's the Todd Graffiniti microphone, but there you go. Yeah. There's the Angry Wave. You brought it back, and tell us why.
Well, you know, it's kind of an accident, but we're trying to change a culture, and a culture that maybe we didn't expect the competitive success. And so one of the things you do when you change culture, you change your look. Well, it just so happens we have this mark from the time when probably we had our greatest competitive run through the 70s and 80s in basketball and football.
Right.
And so it wasn't a matter of, I saw it on the wall, it wasn't a matter of let's design something new. It's let's pull this out of the vault and use it again because we already have it. It's identified with success, and this is what, you know, a mark doesn't win or lose a game, but a mark gets people enthused and passionate.
I'm going to give you a little history. We're going to run through some old helmets right here. We're going to show you something. Look at this wave. Yeah. That's from '64. We're going to go to '65. There you go. I actually like that silver helmet with the Tulane oval. We'll roll through some of these a little faster. That's obviously early '70s. And then you got some other versions here. I know you're toying with some stuff. That's pretty ugly. You got some ugly. Let's roll through these a little bit faster. There's one that I remember pretty well. And I'm just letting you know because we're going to get to your version now, which I love, by the way, and I'm ecstatic about it. But that's last year's version, and now you have. I do like the pink, by the way. Will they have a pink version for?
I think we do.
For breast cancer awareness, and I love that little Mardi Gras one that they used for the New Orleans Bowl. But there again last year, and now there we go. The unveiling happened before the Wake Forest game.
Yeah, and I think what you'll see, you know, those are stickers. You're going to see a lot of different combinations. You'll see the T-wave. You'll see the interlocking T and U at some point.
Really?
We'll do a lot of different things with the uniform. You know, it's funny. Uniforms are a recruiting asset.
Absolutely.
The ability to do things differently, and some of those traditions of, you know, this is the way we did it for 3 decades, You know, the uniforms and the styles and what we look like, it's about the guys. It is about how you keep them happy, how do you recruit them, how you convince them that you're into it.
Ask Mark Cuban.
Yep.
Ask Mark Cuban, because I remember when he got there, all of a sudden the locker rooms are better. Everybody's like, well, why would you pick Dallas? Hey, the locker room's nice. Hey, I want to, before I run out of time, I want to get to your other hires. Mike Dunleavy, like I said, was on this show. Great history of coaching. He took Magic Johnson's team to the finals his very first year as head coach. He played in the league for many years. Why Mike Dunleavy?
You know, we were at a point in basketball where I described it as we were laying on our back and we needed the paddles put to the heart. We needed something completely different. And you know, with Mike, he hadn't done it in the college game, but he's been successful in everything he's done in his life, business-wise, as a player,
father,
as a collegiate,
I mean,
as a
great
father of
right.
two great people. He's a brilliant man, just brilliant man. And he wanted to coach, and he's got family ties here. So everything lined up. Again, the stars lined up, maybe like they did with Willie, to get a guy like Mike Dunleavy in here too. And I will say this, he made us credible the day he was hired.
He absolutely did that. Hey, and there may be a little more of a controversial hire here locally because they had a couple candidates in baseball, and Andy Cannizzaro and, of course, Matt Reiser, one with LSU, former Tulane great, and then Matt Reiser at Southeastern doing some great things. But you hired Travis Jewett from Vanderbilt, not a head coach, but a guy with great baseball pedigree. Yeah. Why Travis?
Well, you know, the trickiest challenge for a school like Tulane in baseball is you're allowed 11.7 scholarships, and you got 35 guys. And how do you split those scholarships? Is at a high-cost institution at a private school, the ability to manage that equivalency determines your fate.
Huge.
And he's got a ring from Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's aspirational for us in a lot of ways, but it looks like us in a lot of ways. And understanding that Vanderbilt model, I thought, was probably the tipping point for what does he bring, because we talked to a bunch of great baseball guys. We had great guys that I think would be great X's and O's, great filling out the lineup card. But that knowledge of the equivalency piece, I think, was really, really important to our future.
Baseball is so tricky with the scholarships, the partials. How do you handle it? Private university, I get it. It had to be tough. While you're signing, I give you a green pen. The only, by the way, Tulane fans, he might be signing Saints ball, but the only person I'm letting put in green on here is the athletic director, Troy Dannen, right there. But as you go, we go to break in a second. Andy Cannizzaro at LSU, a lot of people were all over him being the next head coach. How tough was it to not be able, to look your fan base and say, hey, and then Matt Reiser having such great success at Southeastern, it couldn't have been an easy decision.
Well, you can't make a hire based on the court of public opinion. You got to make a hire that you're fully convinced is the best hire for your program at the point in time that you make the hire. Maybe a year from now or 2 years ago, you would have looked for something different. But given where we're at, coming off the 2 NCAA tournaments, and just knowing the struggles with the equivalency and the costs, Travis was the guy. And it wasn't anything against Matt or Andy, great guys, and they're both going to have great futures.
It's your job on the line, too.
It is, absolutely.
Hey, Troy,
all right.
They hired the right guy here. I can tell you that. Right after the football season ended last year, he's been busy. And I don't want to give volleyball any less credence because that's a huge hire as well. So congrats to them. Thank you for coming on the show, Troy, and I'm looking forward to it. Hey, coming up next, we've already talked LSU, we've already talked some Saints, but we're going to get into this week's game against Pittsburgh with Barry Hirstius from BigEasyBeliever.com. Coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. on WLAE.
Welcome back, Crescent City. As you see from the screen, the big shot, I have Johnny Cash with me. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Johnny Cash, but he is the man in black today. His name is Barry Hirstius, and if you follow the Saints closely, I know you've seen some of his stuff. The Big Easy Believer is one of the more entertaining Saints websites that I've ever read. I got to tell you, and part of it is he's a lifelong fan. Like myself, he's around the same age as me. He grew up with the Saints. He grew up with the New Orleans Jazz like I did in the 70s, and then obviously he loves his teams. He started as a blogger, and then obviously he got picked up by Fan-Sided, which is part of Sports Illustrated, which is also now part of Time Magazine. So these people have a great little operation going, and Barry Hirstius is the brains behind the operation, a Big Easy believer. And I started having him on my ESPN radio show over a year ago, probably a year and a half ago. Really started enjoying reading his stuff. Very entertaining read. It's none of this haughty stuff. It's like, well, we think we're better than y'all. It's what you want to see as a fan. I'm telling you this. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it, and I 100% mean it. Barry Hirstius, welcome to the show. He is the Harahan who dat. Where you at, brah? But it's good to have you, man.
It's great to be here, and I just want to thank you for everything you've done on my behalf personally, and for the success of Big Easy Believer. It's because you had us on, and people started to read the stuff, and it's really taken off. And so,
I gave you an open, venue to let people know who you were, but I wouldn't have had you on if I didn't think your stuff was severely entertaining, and it really was. It's great stuff to read. I enjoy it. You give a different outlook than most. I love how you do lists a lot of times, and obviously the Saints season starting this week. The first game Sunday on the 11th.
Yes.
If you're watching on Thursday, you're only 3 days away. If you're watching on Tuesday, you got 5 days to wait. But the preseason, well, it's been a lot of ups and downs. Many people would say mostly downs, but hey, let's focus on the regular season. The Raiders are coming in. People want to know your input on the Saints. Hey, we are optimists, but we're also realists. And you know what?
Right.
We want the Saints to do well, but as journalists, we have to be honest with our audience. Where do you think the Saints are right now going into the season?
Well, based on the preseason that we just saw conclude, I'm kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. And, of course, my prediction on their season just came out this past Sunday, in advance of the season. And I stuck with my my 9-7 prediction in a NFC wild card, the final NFC wild card spot. Didn't want to.
It wouldn't be shocking. Okay, listen.
No.
Do you remember the Saints preseason in 06? I'm not saying that you compare every preseason, but it was much worse than this one. At least the Saints are within a touchdown most of the games here, and they had a chance at least up until maybe the fourth quarter. That year, Peyton and Breeze's first year, it was awful. They got blown out in every game. I talked to Roman Harper in the locker room last week about it. He said, man, that was ugly. If you want to see ugly, and they went to the first NFC Championship game in team history, 10-6 that season. Not saying they can do it again, but let's give the positives here. What are some of the positives that you think they can get 9 or maybe even 10 wins this season?
Well, I think certainly the defense has improved. I think there's no question. When you look at the defense that we've seen on the field the last 2 years, and then compare that to what we've seen so far, I think they're going to be a much improved unit. They only need to be in the top 20, let's say, to be a playoff contender. But you just can't play defense the way that they've played it the last 2 seasons and expect to be successful in the
historically bad. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Okay, you had the 31st worst defense both years, but you gave up the most passing touchdowns in NFL history last year. There's no Brandon Browner, so let's be honest. That helps. He was the most penalized player in NFL history. But I was talking about this last week. The offense in the 10 years, 5 first-place finishes in the NFL. 2 second-place finishes, 2 fourth-place finishes, and a 6th-place finish. Okay, let's just say that they go to the worst of that and they finish 6th best. Like you said, you give them a top 20 defense and not a 31st or 32nd historically bad defense, and you have a shot in more games.
Oh, absolutely. And if you go back and look at last year and some of the games that, they got blown out in a few games, sure, but there were a few games that were quote-unquote winnable games. The Tennessee game is one that comes to my mind. A Tampa Bay game where Breeze got hurt. Another winnable game. Yeah. So if you take a few of those games and that were a toss-up basically and make them wins, then you had a 9-7, 10-6 team last year. Believe it or not, as bad as they looked in certain spots.
Well, Washington, Philly were horrible. Those are games that stick out to me as like, let's just forget about
them.
Absolutely. But you did have some others that you felt you could win. Tennessee was the turning point. In fact, I'll give you the turning point play when Bird and Lewis went up for that interception and it popped up and both of them wanted it. Neither got it. It popped out of their hands and Delaney Walker goes for 80+ yards and all of a sudden Tennessee has confidence. And they never led in that game until the game-winning kick in overtime.
Right.
In the entire game. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to this year. You mentioned the defense. You feel they're better. I was at training camp. I did see it. We've seen splashes of it in preseason. I thought they played extremely well against the Patriots. I thought they did a lot of good things against the Texans. But as far as your opinion of this defense, why is it improved? Give me some names and some players that you think are going to help it.
Well, certainly, I think you're going to see, well, of course, Rankins won't be back for another few weeks. He will obviously miss this game this Sunday.
Sheldon Rankins, the rookie first-round pick.
Right. But I think he was a player that, before his injury, was going to give you a tremendous upgrade on the defensive line. He was going to give you a huge push. But I think he'll be back, and he'll pick up right where he left off.
Should be back for 3/4 of the season.
Yes, I would think so.
Let's hope so.
If he comes back for the bye coming up here shortly, we'll see, because it's early bye this year. I like Nick Fairley. I like the Nick Fairley signing. I think he brings a legitimacy to the pass rush.
And I'm going to stop you for a second, because Nick Fairley is the Nick Fairley I hoped that the Saints would get. Because I remember when we signed him, I was on this very show saying, I showed some pictures of him in court, showed pictures of him, you know, with his mugshot being a knucklehead. But I know that Nick Fairley can be disruptive. I mean, I saw it at Auburn. I saw it for 2 of his years in Detroit.
Right.
But we just haven't seen a lot of it lately. But I'm telling you, that's one guy in the locker room. I see him all the time, and on the field at training camp. He has a different spirit. He's not the Nick Fairley I thought. And then the post-game post-practice press conferences, he's a fun-loving, jovial guy, and he's enjoying himself right now. I think he is one of those major keys, because he grew up a Saints fan in Mobile. He wants to be here, and it's evident.
Yes. Oh yeah, clearly that's his motivation. You see it. You see it. Everything he's done, the way he handles himself, the way he plays. He's playing on the field. He's inspired. He's excited about it.
Great word, right there.
You know,
he is inspired.
And I've written that in a couple of my articles that I've written about him. That very thing, that being close to home, being close to family, it's a motivating factor for him. And he's passionate about the sport again. He's passionate about his own life again. And I think that's what you're seeing.
Dude, you're 100% right. We all need second chances. I think you and I have probably gotten them ourselves, no doubt about it.
Definitely.
And he is making the best of it. Let's talk about the other free agents that the Saints brought in on defense. Laurinaitis, now the quarterback of the defense at middle linebacker, and then Craig Robertson. Man, I have been very happily surprised. I knew he was going to be good in pass coverage. There he is right there, 52. And then Nate Stupar, who I don't believe I have a picture of. But these 3 guys are all better than advertised to me. We knew of Laurinaitis' history, and I was one of the guys preaching, hey, you're not bringing him in because Pro Football Focus said he was a second-worst linebacker. You're bringing him in because he's a leader that the team hasn't had in about 3 years, okay? So talk about them as a unit, as a whole, and how they're going to change this defense.
Oh, well, I think for one thing, you have guys that can play well. With Laurinaitis, he's a leader. He's a warrior. No pun intended, because of his dad, but you know, this guy is just.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, the Road Warrior. Right. He was a professional wrestler, if you didn't know that. But that's funny. His dad is really WWE professional wrestler back in the day.
Road Warrior Animal, he was known as. But his son is a warrior in the true sense of the word.
Truly.
And you just see it in everything he does, and he just exudes leadership. He exudes confidence. He exudes the qualities that you want in a linebacker in the National Football League. He just has it, so to speak. And then with what you get with Robertson and Stupar, I think is kind of a surprise for Saints fans. I think these were kind of under the radar signings that nobody thought, well, you know, they'll just be backups.
Special teams, probably, right.
And you've got 2, especially Robertson, who I've written several articles on. Robertson is a quality player. Could start probably at least for 20 teams in the league. I'm honestly quite shocked that the Browns let him go. I think this is a guy who can start.
Well, maybe he just wanted to be let go.
He wanted to get out. You can't blame him for getting out of Cleveland.
He had an option, you know. It's not like, I mean, I'm sure they would have kept him.
Yeah, no question he wanted out of Cleveland. Who doesn't? But this is a guy who can start at either weak side linebacker or strong side, and even could probably start at in middle too. So I mean, his versatility was the reason why he became a star. He was undrafted out of the University of North Texas, and you can just see that this guy was destined to be a star at the linebacker position. So
okay, let's just say, you know, the cornerbacks are young, and this is a very, very real concern. Okay, you have Delvin Breaux, who I can't say enough accolades about. I love this young man on and off the field. He was on my very first show here, actually, on the TV show back in February. But he's going to be fantastic. We know that. He's going to make some mistakes because he's still learning. But, man, the way he plays press coverage, and he is so physical. But the other side, P.J. Williams replacing Keenan Lewis, who's been injured for a good part of the last year and a half. How do you think he is going to play well? I mean, he got an interception in preseason. He's also been burned a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to take lumps. He's basically a rookie because he was hurt his whole rookie season last year. Hasn't played it down in the NFL. You have guys like Devontae Harris and Ken Crawley, two guys that were undrafted free agents that are probably going to play some. How do you feel about this? Because the offensive line, which we'll get to in a second, is a problem, but you know, you got young guys, man, in positions that can give up points quickly. Yeah,
and that's the dual-edged sword that they're going to have to deal with all year, because you're going to have a kid in Williams who is going to take his lumps. There's no question about it. I think he'll make some good plays and he'll make some bad plays, and he'll probably have Saints fans screaming at him, screaming at the TV more than once before the year's up. But I just think if you look at Williams, he's a outstanding cover. Cornerback. He can play the outside boundary. He can play either outside boundary position or in the slot. But I think he's more suited to play on the outside boundary. I think it was his destiny to take over that spot from Keenan Lewis one way or another. He wound up taking it over anyway.
And we knew it was happening.
Right. But I think you're looking at, and maybe I'm overselling it a little bit, but I think you're looking at the Saints, you know, in the next 3 to 4 years, having the best cornerback tandem in the NFL.
I agree with that. So, and Von Bell will be matured by then. And then, you know, I'm not sure where Vaccaro will be, but that's pretty exciting right there. Real quick, before I get to the offense, I don't have a lot of time left, but Jarvis Byrd, I've been saying this. Third year, he was the highest paid safety in the game when the Saints got him once Malcolm Jenkins. They're like, oh, by the way, Jenkins has been in the Pro Bowl since we let him go. But he's here. I've been saying this is one of the big keys, and I saw a difference in his attitude at training camp this year because he looked humbled, and he looked like he really knows he needs to prove something to the fans. And if he wants to be on this team for the remainder of that huge contract, he's got to play well this year because he's going to get cut otherwise.
Right, yeah, look, this is now or never for Jarvis Byrd. So I think what you've seen so far in training camp and what we saw in the preseason is the guy we're going to get in the regular season. Now, we all know that, you know, we've thought that about him in the past, and then he's fallen off horribly. So let's take it with a grain of salt. But based on what we've seen, I think he will be a better player this year, and obviously the defense will benefit.
Yeah, and as let's sign this ball, but I want to talk about Andres Pete because this has been a big deal right now. I want your opinion on the Pete saga. You know, him being moved around all preseason. Is it fair to him? You know, even last week they got moved again from the right side to the left side, the guard. He's played left tackle, right tackle. He's played everywhere.
Yeah.
I am still believing in Andres Pete. I know a lot of people are off of it, but you know what? I know he's looked stiff at times. I know he doesn't look great, but David Shaw from the Stanford and all these other people can't be that wrong, can they?
No, I don't think so. I think he's the classic case of an offensive lineman, and you will remember this because I've told this story in my articles a million times, figuratively, since Pete was taken, which is I always go back to the career of Stan Brock. I don't know if you've had Stan on this show. I'm sure you will.
I have had Stan. Well, number 67, baby.
And I'm sure that Stan himself, if he watches this very program, will remember that as a rookie in 1980, Stan Brock struggled mightily.
Yep.
Archie Manning.
Well, the team was pretty bad. They were 1-15.
Right.
Let's just hope Pete gets better like Brock. 13 years here, 16 in the NFL.
Right. And Archie, if you recall, as you recall, that Archie was running for his life. Got it. Was running for his life, and part of the problem was because you'd hear the PA announcer, you'd hear Jerry Romig say, "Holding number 67, Stan."
Best down New Orleans.
Yeah. holding on the Saints, and it was
1st and 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Barry Hirstius. We grew up with Jerry Romig.
Yes.
We've got his brother now in the PA, but a guy that loves his Saints. You can tell it in his writing. Check him out. You're going to love it. BigEasyBeliever.com. You'll thank me later. He's a true Saints fan and a great writer as well. Lots of fun. So I want to thank you, Barry. It's good.
Thank you, sir.
I know we've become friends a couple years ago, and it's been great to have Johnny Cash on my show, the Man in Black. Hey, but we'll be right back. I appreciate it. Hey, the Saints season starts this week. Cross your fingers. You're watching Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander.